Hey guys, James here with River Lunacy. Brought you in today because we're gonna make this thing go faster. It was sent to me because Randy said it doesn't cast worth a crap and he's ready to put it on the shelf. So I said, let me get a swing at it and we'll see what we can do. It's extremely slow. It's very sluggish. It gets about one turn on that spool if I flip it. So I'm actually going to clean this reel. I'm not going to go into detail with that. I just brought you in here to show you a few tips and tricks on how to get this thing smoother and make it cast better. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's see what we can do, guys. And when I'm using grease, a lot of people ask, what do you use? Well, I don't think it's a real big deal. And you can use whatever you want. I like to use the Penn Precision Reel Grease, and I got a nice big bottle of this Liberty synthetic oil. It does a good job for worm gears and some things like that. The Aqueous oils are great. The Abu Garcia oil that comes with your reels, that's great. The Abu Garcia, what is it called? Reel Lube. This stuff is awesome. It's the PTFE, which I think that, don't get me wrong, but I want to say that actually helps with the heat, so stuff doesn't melt so easy. That's really good stuff, you know. Whatever you like. Okay, so here we go. Your left side plate. And I was right. This is a big no-no in my book. Now, it's up to you, but for me, see all that blue grease all over that cogwheel? It's barely even turning. That's gonna slow things down dramatic. We're gonna clean all that off. That's gonna help that out a lot. And when I put that back together, what I'll do, now this is actually stays on. There's like a nipple at the top of this gear right here, and then there's a stand that holds it, and it's beveled at the top. Anyway, if you really want to go all out, you can change that out. They make these with bearings as an upgrade, which is really nice. I have quite a few on some of mine, but if I can't get a hold of that, what I will do is I will cut that off. You can take a razor blade. There's a little beveled part here that comes up, this little nipple part. You'll just kind of go along that with a razor blade. You really want it to be very sharp, and you want to be very careful. So what I'll do is I'll cut into it. This is a hard reel to, so I'll cut into it down to that stand, and then I'll turn it. And when I'm turning that, it's slicing it off for me, okay? Sometimes it takes a few strikes at it. You want to really hold that good. I don't recommend it if you don't have a very good steady hand. There's a little screw that holds this down right here. I just popped that out. I should have showed you. But in order to get that up, if that's what you want to do, you have to take that off. I'm going to clean that too. It's got garbage all over it. So that's going to come right up out of there. And it's got a little stand here holding it, of course. Something in the way. Just, that's one of the things about this. So it just pops right up out of there. All right. See all that grease? Look at that. It's a mess. You know, I don't understand why they do that. It's like somebody who's got a grease gun and just going crazy. But that's a dramatic, that's gonna be a dramatic slowdown. So we're gonna clean that all up. Another thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand that off where I cut that so that's nothing scratchy slowing it down, because when I put that back on, I'm gonna put a little C-clip on there. Next to me right here is a tub. I'll put all my parts in that tub right there. that I'm going to be cleaning. So I'm just going to show you this worm drive first. What I like to do is run that over to one side or the next. And I done took the, here, we'll just turn it by the little gear right there. Take a regular screwdriver. This little cap down here has your paw in there. It's like a tooth that runs back and forth on that. So you'll unscrew that. Pretty simple. I'm going to clean that because it's probably got grease down in there too. Shouldn't be. It's pretty clean. I'll try to get it with this. There we go. So there's your little paw. See all that black garbage all over it? Some of that black garbage is actually your worm drive and your paw disintegrating. I'm going to change this out to a ceramic one. That's going to be a little upgrade. And a lot of that's just grease and grit and dirt. So you really, if you keep that thing clean all the time and make sure to put a little couple drops of oil on it at least once a month or so, depending on how much you fish, I guess. Just keep something to really keep in mind, to keep an eye on. This thing gets dirty and you can, that'll blow out and your fishing trip's over for the day. I keep some of them on hand in my tackle bag. I keep some of the old ones. Mine are all upgraded, but I do keep some of the old ones to just in case that happens. So yeah, I mean, there's a fish scale in there and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's a fish scale. That means the guy's been fishing, right? The bearings, there's one bearing here. You can see it's covered in grease, which, in my opinion, it's just me. I don't think bearings should have grease all over them. Just a few drops of oil is all it really takes. That will slow them bearings down. The centrifugal brake is covered in grease, which means that it's not going to work properly. They were smart enough to only open up 2 pins, whoever the builder was on this. So that was smart, I guess. You could see the grease all over that bearing right there. And then inside the gear plate part in there, that's where the centrifugal brake is supposed to open up. And when you cast, those pins on that brake open up when you cast. And they rub this to help slow things down so you don't overdo it and backlash, you know. So if you look down in there, that is covered in grease also. And things just don't work right when they're covered in grease. So that's one of the reasons when I buy a reel, especially Abu Garcia, I just tear it all apart right away because I know it's going to be covered in grease and things aren't going to run right. Slows things down. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to clean that centrifugal brake. Right here's a pin also. So to take that out, I'll put my thumb on the side of that spool so I don't bend it or scratch it up. Generally, you're not going to bend it. They're pretty tough. But just to help avoid, and then I'll turn that screwdriver a little bit. All right, I just had to put a little extra pressure on it. So I'm going to clean that off. When I'm cleaning these things, I just get some scorching hot water in this tub that I showed you with some like Dawn dish liquid that's really good for fighting grease. These bearings are just nasty. I'm going to take them out. I'm going to clean them with some brake cleaner. And then I'm just going to replace that grease with maybe 4 or 5 drops of oil. That's all it's going to need. Cleaning bearings is not fun, but in this case, we're going to have to do it. This fishing reel in particular, I can't remember the sizes of the bearings, but It has two different sizes on the spool, which makes absolutely no sense for me, but it's what they did. So this is the big one here, and then the other one is hiding down behind that, I believe. I think that's where they put it. Yep, it's in there. So this one actually is pretty clean. That's because they got it hidden, I guess. I'm probably gonna clean it too. Anyway, I'm all over the place, guys. Sorry. Just kind of showing you a little bit of stuff at the breakdown here. So there's a pin right there. This is where you need the needle nose pliers in order to get that bearing out, if that's something that you're up for. So we're gonna grab it real good and snug. Okay, don't lose that. It's beveled in the middle, so when it goes back, it does go back a certain way. This part I'm gonna put in my tray. And there's our sneaky little bearing. Usually you can give that a little tap. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up too, just for fun. This bearing is probably gonna need to be washed off before I can even open it up. A little upside feature to this reel, if you can see them carbon drag washers in there, see how they're kind of separated and thick? Those are really good ones, actually. That will give you some monster drag power. All right, in the meantime here, so what I like to do with that tub of gears and everything is I put a nice glob of dish soap in there, Dawn, something like that, that fights grease pretty heavy. And I fill it up partially with scorching hot water to where I can't even touch it. So I let that sit for a minute, and then I'll do something else to the fishing reel. So anyway, to the bearing thing, it's a really pain in the butt. It's easier to just buy new bearings, but if you want to clean them, a lot of times I just clean them. If I buy bearings, a lot of times you'll see them with the orange seal, which is nice because you can take them orange seals out real easily. On the ones that have the metal racers and everything is very difficult. So I'll take a little bitty, like a bluegill type hook or something, a small wire hook, and you can rub, and there's like a clip inside there that holds all that racers in. Now the bearings aren't going to fall out unless they're garbage. So once that's off, then you can clean them. It's very difficult to see, but there is a beginning to that little racer part, and you can usually grip underneath it. There it goes. Yeah, it's so tiny you can't see it. It's like a little ring inside there that holds that on. Hopefully you can see it. So that's garbage because we're not going to be putting all that back on there. And then that will usually pop out. Of course it's not. So then I take that hook again, and then it'll just come right out, that racer thing there, that bearing. The only reason why I'm cleaning these is I seen they had grease all over them. So that's little ring there is what keeps everything clean for you. So there's the inside of your bearing. That's what it looks like. Once I get the other side off, I'm going to blow it out with some brake cleaner or carb cleaner. Either one of those does a great job. I'll just saturate it and it'll come right out the back side. All that grease will come right out. A lot of times what I do is I take a compressor and then I blow any of that out. As soon as I spray it, I hit it with the compressor also. and that cleans them bearings real good. Some guys like to sit there and put them in lighter fluid. That works also. I've not done it, but I've seen that it does a good job. All right, so I went ahead and cleaned this whole reel, but don't pay any attention to that. This cogwheel, what I do after I cut them off, I'd go ahead and take the razor and I clean it up some, and then I also take some sandpaper and smooth that out real nice and smooth, because it's going to be a little clip that holds it back on, and you don't want that all jaggedy. It's not going to run true. So I like to put a little, just a drop or two, 1, 2 on that. So it just slides on there. It's gonna go a little funny because you got this thing in the way, of course. So it's on there. It's a lot freer than it was. You seen before, it wasn't even moving. Now it's spinning nice. Now take one of these little C-clips. You have to buy them. They don't come with it. And I'll slide that over that right there. You want to put your thumb on there so it don't go flying everywhere. I've lost several of them in the past. I still, to today, still do it. But you take something flat and give it a little push. You'll hear a little pop, and it's on there. And we're spinning. It's spinning real good. All right, there's one step that's going to help. And instead of covering that cogwheel with grease like they had it, all I do is I put 2 or 3 drops, maybe 4, 1 there, 1 there. Put them on the little corners. I'll put 4 on this one. And then another one right about there, you know. And that'll catch on the other, on the worm gear. Right here. Runs that real nice. All right, cogwheels back together. Don't forget this little shield here goes back on. That's what holds your clicker in place. It's got a black screw. This is way smoother than before. Not sure if you could tell, but before it wasn't even moving at all, covered in grease. Plus all that added weight, it's not going to move too good. On the other side of this reel, in the float chamber there, goes a bearing. So I took that bearing apart, them racers, remember, and I blew it out with a carb cleaner, or you can use a brake cleaner. Now, it just goes back in. Before I put it in, I'm just going to put about 4 drops of oil on there. Maybe really don't even need that. 1, 2. And then I'm going to put 2 on the other side just to make sure everything is balanced out. I'm sure it would find its own way to where it needs to go. But we'll do it for it, right? All right. So that bearing just pops down in there. Gently set it down in there so you don't bend anything up. And it's got that little pin. You probably can't see it. It just sets down in there. That's another one of them parts that goes flying. You want to put part of it in there and then squeeze the rest of it in. It just holds that bearing in place so it's not all slopping around, rubbing on stuff. That's pretty necessary to have that in there. Don't forget. There we go. Sometimes it'll click for you. It just holds that little bearing in there for you. Real nice and pretty. All right, moving along. The other bearing, big bearing, I can't remember the size. If you want to know the size, I do have another video on how to upgrade this reel. You're more than welcome to go back, and I do mention the sizes of the bearings in that one. So this one just kind of, let's put some oil on it. We're going to put nice little 2 drops on both sides. Going to flip it. Probably really doesn't have to have quite that much, but this is a stainless steel bearing, so you do want oil on that. For my hybrid ceramic bearings, I do not run oil on them. It's what you like. If you want to quiet them down or slow them down, then you can put oil on them if you like. I prefer not to. I want the most speed as possible out of my bearings. So hybrid ceramic, I do not. So that bearing sits right in there. Don't forget that pin that holds it. Just kind of slides on in there. And you're probably going to need to take some needle nose pliers just to push it through. Be careful not to tear up your spool. And that's what it looks like when the pin's in, just so you know. Don't forget that. Be careful putting it in. Tear up your spool. Put barbs on it. There's a centrifugal braking system there. If you want, you can sit there and put a drop of oil. There's only 2 pins running. They just pop in and out. So we'll add 1 drop of oil for each pin, just to make sure that that's going to slide freely. Wonderful. That just pops on the side with the bearing on this reel. It just snaps right down. They just snap down. Use common sense and don't go taking a hammer to it, of course. There. See, I just popped. All those are freely running. All right. Yeah, make sure you're all the way down nice and flush. That's proper. Now, we also cleaned out where all that grease was. That's going to help also with the braking. All right, finishing touches on this worm gear. I like to add a little oil in between there, a little bit there, some on that little metal gear that runs with the cog before I insert it. Let's see, so the part with the prongs goes on this side of the reel, the right hand side, if you're right-handed. So it just slides on in there, pretty easy. So the open part goes down. Before you do that, you want to put your line, retriever, guide, whatever you want to call it, on it. Slides through. I'll go ahead and kind of get it in that insert on the frame there. It helps things out. So what you want to do is just jiggle it in there. The little teeth just pop right in there. All right. So then I'll flip my reel up. Then you got that little C clip there. Very simple. There's a couple stands on each side. You just hold it onto one stand, goes over underneath that metal part and clips onto this other one. Just make sure it's down on there. It's really pretty simple. We already put some oil on there. I'm gonna give it one more little drop. And there's your worm gear. all cleaned up and ready to go. I'm going to upgrade this worm gear a little bit. With a ceramic paw. That's going to help give it some life. These are notorious for blowing out. If you ever had one blowed out, what it looks like is all your line is on one side. So I'll take that tooth, I put that line retriever all the way on one side. Makes life way easier. You just drop that straight down in there. And the way you know it's in is you can pull on that a little bit. See, it's sliding. That means it's not in. Now it's in. It went all the way down. I know it's in just from experience. And you can also sit there and grab that little gear just to make absolute sure. And it'll run it. See how it's running it back and forth? We're good to go. And you just get your little cap, which these things kind of can be a little pain in the butt. I'll hold it down on there a little bit, and then I'll just work it real lightly down, get it going. You can tighten these up snug as you like. I just get them nice and snug. All right, I'm all wrapped up here. I'll just show you how much faster it is. So that's about five times around before I think we were barely getting 2. So big improvement, a lot smoother. Clean that worm gear out really good. Replaced the paw, the metal one, with a ceramic one. Then we took the cogwheel, remember? And we shaved off that nipple part, smoothed it out with sandpaper, and put a C-clip on there to hold that. So that's running way freer. Also, a lot more free. So those are the 2 main things. And then you sit there, and we took all that grease off that centrifugal brake. So all that spins in there, and if anything is touching that grease, then it's going to slow things down, and it's going to dramatically, your pins are not going to open properly, or they can get, when they do open, they get stuck on that grease inside that that side there. So much better. Much better. Also went back after I got the worm gear back in, and I just put a nice little strip of oil on there. Just any kind of little cheap oil. It doesn't have to be $1 million oil. Well, hope you guys enjoyed that little video. This was just a helping video. Sorry I didn't really have enough time to show you all the things you can kind of do to these. You know, there is another video about this specific reel here if you're interested in doing upgrades on them and that. This is a difficult fishing reel to deal with, to be honest with you. It's got a lot of springs and plastic stuff here and there. It's a chore, but you know, we got it working better than what it was. So that's what we were trying to do here today. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next round. Thanks a lot.